Welcome to Healthy Living. I'm Lori Johnson. Thanks for joining us today. Our topic is great, wonderful, hopeful news about, of all things, Alzheimer's disease. You don't hear that very often. How to prevent getting Alzheimer's disease and even how to reverse it if you have mild cognitive impairment, and even in some cases, even if you have advanced Alzheimer's. My guest is Dr. Dale Bredesen, author of the new book called The Ageless Brain: How to Sharpen and Protect Your Mind for a Lifetime. Dr. Bredesen, great to see you again, as always.
We had so many good discussions with Pat. God rest his soul. And thank you for coming back. This book is really about brain span. It's about how all of us can stay sharp, have performance and protection for a lifetime.
That's right. Pat Robertson was one of your greatest fans, and you came to Virginia Beach and you were on the program. And you were so kind to open up your home, you and your wife, to me and my camera crew. And we came out there to the West Coast to interview you. So, for folks who don't know, Dr. Bredesen and CBN News have a long history because your research and your program is so groundbreaking and so hopeful. I have interviewed some of your patients who had Alzheimer's. I guess they still do, but it's they reversed their symptoms. They could hardly even function, and now they have a regular life. Full disclosure, I am on the program myself. I have been for 4 years, and I highly recommend it. So before we talk about all the intricacies of
Yeah.
what the program involves, it's not that complicated, but a lot of people have trouble getting started. So if we could kind of cut to the chase and say, where can people find out about how to get on the program?
It's a great point. So, the first thing to do, you can read The Ageless Brain. I mean, that's why this was written for any person. Get on an active program to optimize your brain function and optimize your brain performance and longevity. So, brain span, as I mentioned earlier, is the key. And then beyond that, you can simply look at my CQ test. So, you can actually, there's a free test you can take. You go to my CQ. So CQ means cognitive quotient. So mycqtest.com. Have a free cognitive assessment and see where you stand. It takes about 20 minutes or so. It's fairly quick. And then from there, you can look to see, okay, am I doing as well as I'd hoped? What can I do about it?
Basically, the premise of your years of research, you have an incredible pedigree. You went to and then you went to medical school at Duke and have been involved with the Buck Center of Aging and have done incredible volumes of research to support your program, which basically says Alzheimer's disease is caused by a number of factors, not just one thing. So we can't treat it with one thing. You say there
Right.
are dozens of factors, things that cause Alzheimer's, sort of like a roof has lots of holes in it. And we have to address each and everything that's causing the water to leak through into the house and flood the house. The same thing is true with Alzheimer's. There are many different things that cause Alzheimer's: insulin resistance, hormones being out of whack, not getting the right kind of exercise, obviously a genetic component. And then you look at each one of those factors and fix them. Am I right? Is that how you go about it?
That's right. And this book goes beyond Alzheimer's to looking at brain aging itself. What are the things that cause brain aging? Why is it that you meet some people who are 90 and are thinking like they're 40? They're doing really, really well with their thinking. And you meet other people who are 40 and are thinking more like they're 90 and not doing so well. And really, you see these changes even early on. In fact, there were studies recently showing that you could pick up early changes in the 20s, if you can believe that. And we recommend for everyone who is 35 or over, please get evaluated, please get on active prevention. There are now, interestingly, new blood tests that are very simple that can actually tell you whether you are headed for this problem. Just like years ago, hemoglobin A1C first came out, so you could actually see if you were heading toward diabetes. Well, now there are blood tests, and there are three of these p-tau 217, GFAP, and NFL. These are together called brain scan, simple blood tests. And I had mine done recently at my own home. You can have it done by mobile phlebotomy. You can have it done with a local draw station. So you can see, how is my brain doing today? So there are things that are available that were not available even the last time you and I talked a few years ago. So things are really changing. We are entering a real golden age to make sure that everybody is able to stay sharp and protect their brains, avoid decline as we get older. And so we give some examples in the book of people, and there are people who've done so well, who've had initial problems, turned them around, and we just published a paper showing that people over 10 years on the program, we started this program back in 2012, so the longest people have been on it are now 13 years, and they're doing very well. So it's not just about improving, it's about sustaining the improvement over many, many years. So we are truly entering a golden age in which performance and protection of your brain is possible for virtually everyone.
Really, what you recommend on your program, you call it a protocol, the Recode
Right.
protocol, but it's
Yeah.
really just sort of lifestyle changes. A big one is diet. And you talk about, the insulin resistance
Right.
is one of the main causes of cognitive decline. And then there is exercise and the hormones and supplementation, things like that. But it's really sort of like a lifestyle. And one of your patients who I interviewed, she said that when she goes off of it, for example, she went to her grandchild's birthday party and ate a big old piece of cake, which was
Yeah.
pure sugar. And she said she noticed not long after that, her thinking was fuzzier. So this is something that you stay on for the rest of your life. And it's a lifestyle. It's not a medication. So I really wanted you to talk about that.
Right.
This is not something that if you go into your doctor's office and you say, "Hey, put me on the Bredesen
Yeah.
recode," they're going to do it. So you kind of need to find providers. I found a provider in my area. She's a medical doctor, and she
Great.
was trained in the Bredesen protocol. I love her, and so I, and hopefully people can have that opportunity. But talk about the medication. So if you were to go to like a regular doctor and be diagnosed with Alzheimer's, they're going to put you on one of these medicines that we hear so much about when the
Right.
FDA approves them. Talk
Yeah.
about those medications and how effective they are.
And by the way, this doesn't prevent you from going on medications. You can certainly combine them. You can do both together. But the point is, we spent many years in the laboratory, as you indicated, looking at what are the drivers of the decline. And what it turns out, there are 7 basics that can address these things. The 3 major drivers that are hurting us as we age and that are giving us cognitive decline and brain aging are reduction in energetics, so that's blood flow, and oxygenation, which is why so many people with sleep apnea will have some cognitive problems. And it's mitochondrial function. These are the batteries of your cells. They've got to be working well. And it's your ketone and glucose levels. You've got to have that fuel for your brain to keep it going. And for so many of us, these are reduced as we age. So getting that back going again, really important. The second thing is anything that's producing inflammation. And that can be a change in your oral microbiome or chronic sinusitis or a leaky gut or a tick-borne infection like Lyme disease, for example. So many of these things people don't even realize they have because they are chronic until we check, and you can now find, this needs to be addressed. And so that's the second piece. And then the third one is exposure to toxins. As we know, the big one that we've heard about recently is microplastics. And microplastics turn out to concentrate in the brain far more than the liver or the kidney. That's just been published recently. And they are associated with increased risk for cognitive decline, unfortunately. So there's a lot we can do about this. And in general, you start with the 7 basic lifestyle pieces, and then there are 2 specifics in addition. So the 7 basic ones are diet and a plant-rich, mildly ketogenic diet, which is called KetoFlex 12-3, has been very helpful for many, many people. The very first person who started in 2012, patient 0, Her name is Judy, and she has announced she is beginning April 5th in San Diego. She is going to walk from one ocean to the other ocean. She's just turned 80, by the way. She started Alzheimer's when she was 67. She's done great for 13 years now, continues to do great. She's actually now a health coach and doing very well. So that is a critical piece. And then exercise and things like HIIT and Katsu bands and EWAT. These are things that have all been very helpful for people to optimize their exercise. Sleep. You want to track your sleep and look for at least 7 hours of sleep a night, at least an hour and a half of REM, at least 1 hour of deep sleep, and at least 94% oxygen saturation. So checking your sleep and then reducing stress levels. Stress shrinks the brain. And then brain training and brain stimulation have turned out to be very helpful. And then detox, there are some basic things that we can all do for detox, things like sweating and sauna and things like that. And then some targeted supplements. And no question, people will say, well, supplements aren't a cure for Alzheimer's. Of course they're not. But in terms of optimizing your brain health, there are many things that can be done. In fact, specific supplements can, without question, be helpful. So those are the 7 basics. And then the 2 specifics are you want to know if you have chronic infections. Of course, the big one that's affected our cognition over the last 5 years has been COVID. And many people with COVID will notice some brain fog. So doing optimal things will improve that brain function. And
Right.
then the final one is looking at these various toxins, and they come in 3 different types. It's the inorganics, the things like air pollution and mercury and things like that. It's the organics, things like anesthetic agents and formaldehyde, benzene, toluene, glyphosate, all those things. And then finally, it's the biotoxins. It's the things like toxins made by molds, mycotoxins.
Yeah.
So many of us are living in areas
Right.
where there are mold species that will do that. So
Indeed.
addressing those things is
Yeah.
what's worked best.
Right. I had my carpets tested for mold because I was scoring high on the toxins when I went in
You
to see
mentioned
my
them.
doctor who is trained by you. All right, we're going to take a break and be right back with Dr. Dale Bredesen. The book is called The Ageless Brain: How to Sharpen and Protect Your Mind for a Lifetime. Stay with us. Welcome back to Healthy Living. We are talking with Dr. Dale Bredesen. The book is called The Ageless Brain: How to Sharpen and Protect Your Mind for a Lifetime, and about the Bredesen protocol, which helps prevent Alzheimer's and even reverse it in many people. I've met some of them. So a lot of folks at home are like, but wait a second, why can't I just go to the doctor and get one of these new prescription medications that the FDA just approved that there's all this news coverage about?
First of all, of course, the book is talking about people who don't have Alzheimer's, who are just normal, but find out that their cognition is suboptimal. So it is improving cognition, goes way beyond ever thinking about drugs. However, you brought up a really important point. What about the drugs that we're told are for Alzheimer's? Well, as everyone knows, they don't work very well. This is why there was such an argument about whether they should even be approved by the FDA at all. So the best they do, the best, is to slow the decline a little. They don't make you better. They slow, in the best cases, about 25%. They make a little bit of a dent in the acceleration downward. And that is with side effects that include microhemorrhages, so some bleeding into the brain, some brain swelling, and unfortunately, 9 people so far have died from this treatment. So it does have its side effects, unfortunately, and it is also exceedingly expensive at about $50,000 per year. Whereas doing the right things is far, far less expensive, of course. Everyone is still working on how do we get better and better drug treatment for Alzheimer's. But as of today, there is nothing that will actually improve you and keep you improved other than the protocol that you were talking about that we developed to now about a dozen years ago.
You said just a moment ago, doing the right things.
Yes.
That's what your protocol is. And what's so interesting is we know that Americans, with our lifestyle, we're doing the wrong things with what we
Yeah.
eat and the way we live. And what I thought was fascinating was you said when you were in medical school a number of years ago, it was really rare to see young people with dementia, but now
Yes.
it isn't. We're seeing young people, 30s, 40s, 50s, get dementia. Talk about that.
That's such a good point. The epidemiologists have published just within the last couple of years, if you look at the increases in terms of percentage year over year, the biggest increases in dementia have been in the 30 somethings and 40 somethings. So you're absolutely right. When I was in medical school and then training as a neurologist, and this was way back in the 70s and 80s, I'm in my 70s now, so this was a long time ago. At that time, we thought of this as old timers disease, as a disease of late life in 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Now we know that this begins many years before, 20s, 30s, and 40s, but it's diagnosed much later. So you actually begin to see changes in biochemistry, which is why these new blood tests are so important. You can begin to see changes and you can see it coming. That's the great news. You can see it long before you ever have problems and you can deal with it. And we don't know, the researchers overall, we do not know yet why it is so much more common in the 30s and 40s and 50 somethings. I never, when I was training, saw a person in their 50s with Alzheimer's. Now it's one of the most common things I see. So there is something that has changed, and this may be related to our environment. It may be related to our diet, our lifestyle. It's not clear yet, but it is clear that there is this move, as you said, toward younger and younger people.
To me, it's obvious. It speaks to our lifestyle because we've seen this with people, young people getting colon cancer, like what that we never did before, and it's
Yes.
directly related to the diet. So we're going to take a break and be right back with Dr. Dale Bredesen. The book is called The Ageless Brain: How to Sharpen and Protect Your Mind for a Lifetime. Stay with us. Welcome back. We are speaking with Dr. Dale Bredesen, author of the new book, The Ageless Brain: How to Sharpen and Protect Your Mind for a Lifetime. And Dr. Bredesen, boy, it really hit home when you started talking about the power of denial.
Yeah.
When you start thinking about noticing you're not thinking the way you used to, you can't remember the way home, you can't follow direction, things like that. And we often say, oh, I'm sure it's nothing. A lot of people say, "Oh, I don't have Alzheimer's in my family. I can't have it." But denial is something we should not ignore. And you even call it demonic, and I agree. It in my mind, it
Yeah.
is. It's the devil saying, "Don't worry about it," because the longer you wait, just like cancer, the harder it is to deal with. And I did want to talk about the risk factors. There are these APOE4 genes, the so-called
Yeah.
Alzheimer's gene. We can get one from mom and one from dad. And if we have
Right.
two of them, our chance of developing Alzheimer's is like over 70%. You're probably going to get it. And then if you have the one APOE4 from one parent, but not from the other, that's my situation. You've got
Mhm.
like above a 30% chance of getting
Right.
it. But then people who don't even have the gene have like what, a 9% chance of getting it?
That's right. About a 9% if you have zero copies. And I checked myself, I'm an ApoE33, so I don't have copies, but I still have a chance. And the people who are ApoE4 negative tend to get it a little differently. They tend to get toxic Alzheimer's or they tend to get vascular Alzheimer's. They don't tend to get the inflammatory metabolic Alzheimer's that people who have ApoE4. So really what ApoE4 is about, it's a wonderful gene. It was something that came for millennia ago. But what it does is it helps you respond to pathogens very well, but you
Yeah.
respond to them so well that it's an over response, which can over the years have some damage. Okay, no problem. You check your blood, you get on optimal things, and you don't ever allow that to happen. So I think you're a great role model for people. Everybody should know their ApoE status. There are 75 million Americans who have a single copy of ApoE4, and there are 7 million Americans who have two copies. So it's important for everyone to know their status, and then no problem, get on active prevention so that you can avoid this problem in virtually everyone.
A lot of people, again, they know people in their family who have had Alzheimer's, died
Yeah.
from Alzheimer's, and they're terrified. They don't want to know if they have it, if they're high risk of it. But really, you need to overcome that fear. We all do. When I found out that I had one of the genes, I was terrified.
Yeah,
But
you should
you
be.
need to get over that fear because that's the road to denial. facing it
Right.
is and knowing that people can recover from this is so encouraging.
It's a great point. Sticking your head in the sand does not help. So what you want to do is get evaluated, get on active prevention. It's so effective now. So many people have done so well that in fact, you should not be worried. Just like finding out your blood pressure. Don't be worried if you've got hypertension. There's a treatment for that. Don't be worried if you find out you have prediabetes. You can prevent yourself from getting full-on diabetes and all its complications. And the same goes for cognitive decline.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to take another break and be right back with Dr. Dale Bredesen. The book is called The Ageless Brain. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Healthy Living. We're speaking with Dr. Dale Bredesen, author of The Ageless Brain. And you talked about how you wanted to shout it from the rooftops. So do I. That's why we're doing this show. So, talk to our folks about, unfortunately, we only have less than a minute left, where they can find the book, more information about you, and how to get on the protocol.
The easiest way, go into my CQ test. You can also get the blood test that I mentioned at getabrainscan.com. You can look at drbredesen.com. You can go to apollohealthco.com. So all of these ways, you can also see this on Facebook, Dr. Dale Bredesen, also on X, also on Blue Sky, also on Instagram. So there are many, many ways to get information about what we're doing, get updates. And you can also, I mentioned the woman who's going across the country starting on April 5th. You can look at her, Judy's walk across the country, and you can follow where she stands as she goes across the country. There are other survivors who are going to be walking with her. So all of those are good ways to get extra information.
Wonderful. Well, Dr. Bredesen, thank you so much for being with us today. And most importantly, thank you so much for your life-saving research. And God bless you and take care. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Lori.
And thanks to you who tuned into this edition of Healthy Living. I'm Lori Johnson, and we'll see you again next week. Bye now.